Welcome to The Explainer. Imagine, just for a second, facing one of the absolute most stressful moments of your life. Maybe it's a sudden eviction, an unexpected divorce, or just crushing debt. Now imagine having to navigate a literal maze of courtrooms and complicated legal jargon completely alone. The legal system can feel so incredibly overwhelming, especially when you're just worried about keeping a roof over your head or putting food on the table. But honestly, here's the really good news. You don't have to fight alone. Today, we are bringing you the ultimate guide to accessing Michigan's free legal aid network. You absolutely cannot afford to miss these insights, because I promise you, help is far more accessible than you might think. Look, let's be real. Attorney costs can be wildly expensive. Are you feeling priced out of justice? It is such a common fear. So many people mistakenly believe that if they don't have thousands of dollars ready for a retainer fee, the courtroom doors are just permanently closed to them. But throughout this explainer, we're going to look at a massive network of dedicated advocates who are standing by to help you, completely free of charge.
Okay, let's dive right in by defining what civil legal aid actually is. Put simply, it's free legal representation or advice specifically for civil, non-criminal matters. Now, this is a really vital distinction to make. Legal aid steps in for critical life issues, things like housing, family law, or protecting your assets. But organizations funded by the Legal Services Corporation are statutorily barred from handling criminal cases. So if a case could potentially send you to jail, you're going to need the public defender system, not civil legal aid.
So here is our roadmap for today. We're going to quickly cover 1. Understanding legal aid, 2. Covered cases and impact, 3. How to qualify, 4. Steps to access help, and finally, 5. Alternative resources. Let's get to it. Section 1. Understanding free legal aid.
Let's set the stage here and look at this incredible network of nonprofit heroes operating all across Michigan. The state's Civil Legal Aid Administration is actually incredibly organized. It is primarily divided into 5 regional nonprofit law firms. These are funded by the federally chartered Legal Services Corporation, or LSC for short, alongside various state grants. And what this means is that the state is basically carved into designated blocks of counties, so there's absolutely no overlap. For instance, if you live out in Wayne or Macomb County, you're going to look to Lakeshore Legal Aid. If you're in Washtenaw or Ingham, Legal Services of South Central Michigan has your back. Plus, there are statewide specialty programs, like the Crime Victims Legal Assistance Project and Farm Worker Legal Services, that target vulnerable populations literally anywhere in the state. So no matter what county you live in, there is definitely an organization assigned to your specific area.
Section 2. Covered cases and real impact.
So we know these organizations exist, but what do they actually do day to day? Well, the crucial point to remember is that legal aid steps in when your basic human needs are threatened. We're talking family law, especially dangerous situations involving domestic violence. They take on housing cases to stop evictions and foreclosures right in their tracks. They fight consumer debt and predatory practices. And they advocate fiercely for your access to life-saving government benefits like food stamps and Medicaid. These aren't just minor legal disputes, right? These are literal survival issues.
And this perfectly illustrates the true human impact of this work, because behind every statistic is a real story. Take Vivian, for example. She was trapped in an absolute nightmare, facing daily physical and verbal abuse from her husband. She had no idea how she could ever afford the court fees to leave, but Legal Services of South Central Michigan stepped in, secured a personal protection order, and finalized her divorce, completely ending her nightmare. Or consider Adrian. She was living in a totally deplorable mobile home park without running water for 7 months. 7 months! When her negligent landlord tried to evict her, legal aid didn't just step in to stop the eviction. They negotiated a settlement that completely wiped out her debts and forced that landlord to pay her a lump sum for violating housing laws. I mean, that right there, that is the real power of legal aid.
We also see this massive, community-wide impact in the Life O'Reilly mobile home park case over in Lansing. Right in the dead of winter, 85 units were suddenly condemned due to horrifying health violations. We're talking rotted floors, no refrigerators, exposed raw sewage. Residents were given just 10 days to get out and face sudden homelessness. But legal aid attorneys instantly jumped into action. They coordinated emergency outreach for shelter, and then they filed a massive lawsuit on behalf of those former residents. 3 years later, they secured a substantial monetary settlement to compensate those families for the terrible conditions they had to endure. They truly hold bad actors accountable.
Section 3. How to qualify.
Now that we've seen the incredible power of these services, let's break down exactly who is eligible to actually get this help. Check out this golden number right here, 125%.
For standard LSC-funded representation, your total household income generally needs to be at or below 125% of the federal poverty level. To put that into perspective with some real data, for a single-person household in 2024, 125% equates to an annual income of exactly $18,225. Now, occasionally, programs can accept clients who make up to 200% of the poverty level, but that's usually only if you have very specific documented expenses like extraordinary medical costs. But generally speaking, 125% is that standard baseline you want to keep in mind.
So if you do meet that income threshold, you're going to need to prove it. When you apply, you've got to get your paperwork in order. Be ready to provide a government ID with a photo and your current address. You're going to need proof of income for everyone in your household. That means gathering up W-2s, recent pay stubs, or your Social Security statements. You should also definitely track down your previous year's federal and state tax returns. And if your case involves property, bring your deed or your lease agreement. Seriously, having all this paperwork ready to go will drastically speed up your intake process. But wait, what if you don't quite meet that strict 125% income limit? Please, whatever you do, do not self-reject. There are critical exceptions built into this system for vulnerable populations. Programs like the Crime Victims Legal Assistance Project offer totally free help to survivors of domestic violence, completely regardless of those strict income limits. For example, a mother named Serena was able to use this exact project to get court permission to safely relocate her daughter completely out of Michigan, just to escape an abusive ex-husband who kept stalking her. Similarly, seniors over 60 and seasonal farm workers very often qualify for specialized assistance. Farm Worker Legal Services even stepped up to help a 14-year-old girl named Brianne recover her stolen wages and stop an illegal eviction at a migrant labor camp. The point is, help is out there if you are vulnerable. Section 4. Steps to access help.
All right, let's move into the most actionable part of this explainer. What are the exact step-by-step things you need to do today to get an attorney assigned to your case? Dealing with bureaucratic stuff can obviously cause a lot of anxiety, so let's just carefully walk through the standard 4-step intake process so you know exactly what to expect. Step 1 is initial contact. You call in or go online, and they triage your issue to see if it's an emergency, like, say, an eviction happening tomorrow morning. Step 2 is the income and asset screening, which we just talked about. Step 3 is a mandatory conflict of interest check. Basically, under Michigan rules of professional conduct, an organization literally cannot represent you if they already represent the person you're up against. If there is a conflict, don't worry, they will refer you elsewhere. And finally, step 4 is case acceptance. Staff attorneys will either take your case for full representation, offer you some limited advice, or provide you with a documented referral to get help elsewhere.
So where do you actually go to start step 1? Pull up your browser and head over to MichiganLegalHelp.org. They run this fantastic statewide online intake system that just automatically routes you to the correct regional office based on your county. Super easy. Now, if you'd rather speak to a real human being, or if you have a highly urgent issue, you can absolutely call the Counsel and Advocacy Law line toll-free. These are basically the centralized starting blocks for all Michigan residents. Section 5, Alternative Resources. Okay, but what happens if you apply and it turns out you make just a little too much money to hit that 125% threshold, but you still absolutely cannot afford a traditional private lawyer? Do not panic. You have some amazing backup options. Let's compare standard legal aid with a truly fantastic alternative, the State Bar of Michigan's Modest Means program. While standard legal aid is free and capped around that 125% poverty level, the Modest Means program is designed specifically for moderate income earners. If your household income is up to 250% of the federal poverty guidelines and your liquid assets are under $5,000, you can qualify. You just pay a small $25 referral fee, and then private attorneys actually agree to bill you at a highly reduced rate of just $75 per hour, or they'll charge flat fees for fixed-rate services. It is a brilliant, much-needed bridge for the middle class. Now, if full representation still just isn't in the cards, you've got to check out these incredible self-help resources. Did you know there are currently 40 self-help centers operating at 65 different sites across Michigan? They're usually right inside courts or libraries, and they have trained navigators who can help you understand legal info and properly fill out your forms. You can also use the Michigan Free Legal Answers online service. It's an online portal where volunteer attorneys literally wait to answer your specific legal questions. You can also look out for local pro bono events like Lakeshore Legal Aid's Southfield Friday Clinic. And definitely remember, MichiganLegalHelp.org has some fantastic do-it-yourself tools to help you generate your own court forms if you decide you need to represent yourself. Just a quick housekeeping note before we wrap up today. Please keep in mind that the information provided in this explainer is meant for general guidance and educational purposes only. It is not direct legal advice. Legal guidelines and state policies can and do change over time, so you should absolutely always consult with a qualified attorney or a legitimate legal aid service to address the specifics of your unique situation. Ultimately, the legal system just does not have to be an impenetrable fortress. Whether you are dealing with a really dangerous domestic situation, fighting to stay in your home, or battling unfair, crushing debt, there is a sprawling, wildly dedicated network of legal professionals in Michigan whose entire job is to ensure that you are not priced out of justice. You have the knowledge now. You know the income limits, and you know exactly where to go to get started. Knowing that these advocates are standing by, will you take the first step today to claim the justice you absolutely deserve? Thank you so much for watching, and stay empowered.